we are talking to Chloe from Tennessee,
Yay.
who wants to talk about views on radical kindness from theist and atheist perspectives. And Chloe was in the pre-show TikTok, so thank you for calling, Chloe. What is it specifically you want to talk about?
So hello, Richard and Sydney. Thank you for taking my call.
No problem.
I've been hanging out in the ACD, the Atheist Community Discord, and I've been questioning my beliefs. And every time I ask the question, what if these gods I believe in don't exist? I'm left with the same conclusion, which is I have to be kind. And then when I think about what if these gods do exist, I'm still left with the same conclusion. I just take a different path to get there.
Okay.
So, and for me, in this point in my life, taking that path serves a particular emotional need. And that's the claim I'm going to make as a theist, is that theism scratches an emotional need.
Okay.
I just want to know, what's the atheist perspective on this perspective when given, so much of theism seems to be about reality denial, when it's really about what really matters to us, authentically, and what is our bare vulnerability before God. I just want to get the atheist perspective on it.
So sorry, I just want to make sure that I understand. Restate your question for us. What was it exactly that you're asking us? Because I've got a few points I could make about things you said, but I want to make sure that I'm answering the exact question you wanted to know.
Oh, perfect. Because this forces me to be a little bit more clear about my question when I came in with generally vibes.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what would be the rational response to the call to radical kindness? What are the claims I'm making? What do I have to answer for? What's the work that I have to do to make sure that I've got the right direction to go forward?
So do you want to go forward as a theist, or would you like to go forward neutral, or are you deconstructing? In which direction would you hope to guide yourself through your answer?
Oh, definitely through theism.
Okay.
But
and so
I just want to know what the atheist path is like for you.
So, Richard, I don't mean to speak over you. Did you have a response?
No, you go, and then I'll wait for Chloe to respond to you, and then I'll jump in a little later.
Perfect. So, and Chloe, feel free to redirect me if I'm not answering the question that you're asking. But from what I gathered from what you're asking, in my opinion, I don't think that kindness needs to be radical. I don't think that kindness needs to be a theist, atheist, in the middle thing. I think that kindness is something that exists and can be acted upon regardless of what your religious beliefs are. I would say that the reason for kindness might change depending on whether or not you are religious or not. For example, when I was my most religious, I remember that kindness was definitely something that was very important to us, but we were also told, if you're kind, you go to heaven. If you're kind, you'll be rewarded by God. If you're kind, God will smile upon you because you're spreading his kindness. Whereas with atheists, I actually appreciate their kindness even more because I know that they are not getting any kind of reward in any kind of afterlife. I feel like in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, it is more genuine because I know they are just being kind. But I don't think that kindness should be approached as a radical belief. I think kindness should be the basis. Kindness should be the foundation of all humans, regardless of their beliefs or differences in beliefs. And then I think you should check with yourself, am I being kind to others because I want to be kind, or am I being kind to others because of maybe God, or am I being kind to others because of something that I hope to gain from other people? Why are we being kind? I think the motivation for your kindness and your acts is very important. And I think always analyzing why you choose to be kind, if you choose to be kind, is an important place to start. Am I answering your question at all? Is that helpful? Feel free to step in and say that I'm not.
I was about ready to. I was actually going to say the theism I come from is Norse paganism. So
okay,
a lot of that magical intent, the intents you put into your ritual, into your magic, into whatever you do, matters and counts. And it seems like it's also getting to that, the idea that kindness should just be a thing we do,
mm-hmm.
and it shouldn't be this radical act.
Right.
It feels like, oh, that would be great if we lived in that world, but we live in a world where that kind of kindness is radical. So for me, that's how I see it. It's like, okay, well, it shouldn't be, but that's not the world we live in.
Okay.
And the intent and why we do things and understanding our motivations, all of these things are things that I've uniquely learned through theism. And
why do you say that? What do you think that it's unique to theism? What makes you say that?
No. So, I've had 3 teachers try to explain calculus to me, but it was on YouTube. I figured it out.
Okay.
What I'm saying is not that this is the only way for that. This was my way for that.
Okay.
So through theism, I found that, and I found out that our intentions leave a mark, basically.
Okay.
And I apologize if this sounds like I'm rambling or anything, but this is such a fundamental issue for me. I want to get to a point where we can actually have if there's anything to actually have a discussion over.
I'm interested in kind of just touching on Sydney's question a little bit more, because I'm not sure I understood the way you said it the same way that Sydney did, and I just want clarification on that. Are you saying that this can only be achieved through theism?
No.
Right, thank you for that, because that's the bit I was unsure about.
I think Chloe, feel free to correct me, I think Chloe was saying that for them personally, it made the most sense through theism. Like they recognize that multiple belief systems are trying to convey this message, but the way that they learned it through their theist beliefs was the way that it made the most sense.
Bingo.
Okay. And so I apologize if it's just me, and Richard, feel free to take over. I'm still not 100% sure I understand what the question is, and I feel like I'm not quite answering your question.
Okay. So the question I'm trying to ask and trying to come up with the words for is I think it's actually about priorities.
Okay.
Do we prioritize the other? Do we prioritize humanism before rationality, or rationality before humanism?
In my opinion, that the rational, humanism is rationality. In my opinion, it's the most rational way to live, and the most rational thought process is humanism. I don't think those two things are different. I think if you're a rational person, you recognize that it's important to take care of other humans and be kind to other humans and to act in the best interest of other humans, as opposed to the alternative.
Okay. So
do you think, Chloe, theism and humanism are some kind of two sides of the same coin? Do you not think they can go together? Or do you think that, they're necessarily opposite to each other. You can only have one or the other.
Oh, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Not by a long shot.
Right.
Because there are lots of atheists who don't absolutely have any feeling towards humanism, and there's lots of theists who have humanist values.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'd agree with that as well. Yeah.
I was just and I was just going to say I want to end the call soon because I really don't have much to go on. I just wanted to try to have something a little better than another conversation about the Kalam cosmological argument again.
just before you do go, Chloe, if you don't mind, you said something earlier, something along the lines of, you kind of hold on to this theism because of the emotional aspect of it. Do you think that, we are emotional creatures? Human beings are emotional creatures. And do you think that emotional aspect could not be gleaned from a non-theistic source? Is that why you cling to theism?
I cling to theism because it works. It doesn't work well. It's not perfect. It has problems, but it works.
In what respect?
Yeah. In what way would you say it works over, say, atheism?
So
what works for you?
So what I'm getting specifically out of theism, and I've said this in multiple ACA calls, and I didn't want to rehash this point again, is that what's in it for me for theism is ultimately gender euphoria.
How so?
And I've said it on because for me, goddess worship, getting involved with something that is explicitly divine feminine, has a gender return on investment that I have to believe in it in order to get that return. And I have to take it seriously, and I have to carry around as a weight that this is something that is both something I cannot prove. This is a theistic position. It's vulnerable, and I have to come up with better defenses. But it serves this purpose.
Don't you think you could use the utility aspect of? Don't you think you could use the utility aspect of that belief without the belief that it is in fact existent in reality? That it does exist in reality. But there are lots and lots of atheists who go through kind of ritualistic behavior, who have, some of them even have shrines. Some of them even have shrines to certain gods or goddesses, but it's a utility. They know those things aren't real. It's more of a kind of meditative aspect. It's in it, as you says, if I understand you correctly, it's an aspect of connecting with this idea and emotionally and being given the strength from that idea. Do you not think that that's possible for you without that going hand in hand with the belief that the goddess actually exists?
This is where I get to drop. This is the only bit of woo I believe in about myself. And I apologize that this is where I'm going. I'm an empath. I have hyper empathy. I empathize with my toaster oven.
Okay.
For me, this concept of a goddess that I worship, Freya, I have to respect on all levels because of, the mythological power, the things that I get from this interaction with her. I have to treat it like a good relationship, like not transactional, like a business, but more relational, like a friend.
But forgive me, Chloe, if this goddess doesn't exist, you do not get any power from her.
Chloe, I have a question if you don't mind me asking.
Sure.
Yeah, and I actually remember you. We've actually spoken on the Discord before. What is it about?
Excellent.
Yeah. What is it about theism that that you need theists or theistic permission in order to look at yourself and say that you alone are enough to feel divinely feminine, to feel your femininity, to live your most feminine life, to have your own feminine identity. It seems like there somehow is a connection where it almost feels like the theistic belief that you have seems to give you permission or grant you permission to feel feminine or to feel supported in your femininity, when in reality, in my opinion, I don't think you need any belief system in order to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to live however I feel is best. I'm going to do what I feel I need to do to feel my most feminine. I'm going to find communities maybe online that support my femininity and other people who feel the way that I do. I guess my confusion is, why does theism have to play any role whatsoever in your ability to feel feminine and be feminine and feel that acceptance and permission?
I actually have an answer to this, and it's not satisfying. And I would have to spend like maybe 2 or 3 minutes explaining myself. But basically, it would be the circumstances of my life that led me to where, given my options of non-theism, which, okay, I could potentially work those things for myself, right? But I did that for so many years. Or I can go into theism where these things just drop into my lap.
But do they? Because I think theism is actually a lot of work.
That's the thing, is that, like, the thing that us theists need to come to grips with, and I've said this before, is that we have to face the possibility that what we're doing is just working on and working with ourselves. And I'm very familiar and I'm very okay with this statement, with this concept. When I utilize all of me, and this is, again, going back to that empath woo stuff, what my technique for quote unquote talking with my goddess is building an idea, a model, using theory of mind, basic theory of mind, of just figuring out what I think this goddess would be like. What are these expectations?
Why not spend that time figuring out what you should be like and what your expectations for yourself are and what you're going to grant yourself permission? Why is it that we need the extra step of this theist identity when in reality what we could do is, you could have your beliefs and your religion, but you can also have the ability to wake up every day and say, today, this is what I'm allowing myself. This is what I'm gifting myself. This is how I'm going to live today and express myself today. It almost sounds like maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but it sounds like you need something, even if it's something you've never seen, like a deity of some kind, to give you permission, when in reality, you don't need anyone's permission at all. You don't need anyone's validation at all. You can decide for yourself all of these things about yourself, what you decide that femininity is, what you decide that yourself in your feminine form is, how you are going to express yourself. And I think theism is actually a lot of work, because there's usually prayer involved. There's usually some kind of sacrifice, communication, actions involved that are often identified with different belief systems, when in reality, you don't need any of that. You don't need to earn it. And it sounds like you feel like on a daily basis, you need to earn the ability to feel how you deserve to feel every day, or how you can give yourself permission to feel every day, when you don't need to earn it at all.
So you're not wrong in the sense that that is kind of what's going on here. It's not. Let me invert the paradigm here. What I am doing is I am raising an idol, making this idol what I want to be, not what I want to be, because I really don't, I wouldn't want to live Freya's life, but what I would want to be inspired by. And what I bring her is all of my anxieties. So those anxieties of, should I do this? Can I do this? You know, whatever. And this is not a permission structure. This is not a rubber stamp. This is me setting these things on fire before her feet.
Why?
Go and moving forward and doing what because it works, unfortunately. And that is that's the only claim I can give you, is that for me, it works. And that is the best claim I've got as a theist.
Have you, and this, I'm not being sarcastic or anything, have you tried just being, just doing? Have you tried existing in the way that you want to exist without any communication with your deity at all? Just literally waking up and deciding to do what you feel is best for you, or what would make you feel as feminine or as supported as possible without any kind of ritualistic anything? And why didn't that work if you have tried it? Or what was it that you didn't like about it?
The best way I can put it is that with the goddess, is that maybe it's just a reflection of my relationship with my mother, but other than making sure that I was safe, making sure that I wasn't doing anything harmful, making sure that I was, you know, not doing anything, whatever, my mom was always there to cheer me on. Mm-hmm. And as a reflection of femininity and my idea of femininity, having that cheerleader figure in my head carried around with me, even though it's just this virtual model of what I think a goddess is, gives me a place to put that anxious energy. I tried doing it like I didn't know what to do with any of it. The thing that's not being communicated here very well is that for me as an empath, one of the things that I deal with is emotional dysregulation. Increased emotional sensitivity means you're more sensitive to your own emotions, even if you're still going through the same thing everyone else is. So I've got a lot more anxiety than the average person does.
And I just want to preface this by saying I am not a counselor. I am not planning on giving any advice of a counselor or anything like that. But out of curiosity, why can't you be your own cheerleader? Or why can't real people be a cheerleader? What is it about joining communities that exist already, or forums, or apps, or Reddit subreddits, things like that, that you can post on and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is how I would like to exist today, but I feel like I can't unless I achieve this, or unless somebody says this, or unless I get permission like this. What is it about a belief system and a deity and a goddess that makes you feel like that works, as opposed to seeking that exact same cheerleadership, one, from yourself? Because it's very difficult, in my opinion, to live the way that you want to live if you don't even have your own back. But then to find people that really do exist, that you can see, that you can Zoom or Skype with, that you can chat with online, that will respond, that will back you up, that will give you advice, that have actually lived the way that you are living, or maybe are further away through the process. Like, why doesn't that work? Or why is that not an option, as opposed to a deity that may or may not ever respond in any way?
It has to do with the bare vulnerabilities of my life. Do I really want to expose my barest vulnerabilities that I have, my deepest, darkest thoughts that I have anxiety over to strangers on the internet?
A counselor, maybe.
I pay $150 I pay $150 a session to a therapist to talk through those things in confidence. And after doing lots of therapy, having that virtualized second, not second therapist, but like a second place to put these feelings is really helpful.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree. I guess my question is, given the number of resources we have as human beings on Earth, why is the first step a counselor and therapy, and the second step an entire belief system and being a theist and a deity, as opposed to something else that exists and can be responded to, like forums for other people who are experiencing similar experiences to you, or YouTube communities, or things like that. Like calling in here, I would say, is even a more realistic step in my personal opinion as a non-therapist than deciding step one was therapy and I didn't necessarily get what I wanted out of it. Step two is changing my belief system because that seems to be a good idea, as opposed to speaking to other human beings who might be able to give you humanistic advice or advice from real life experiences and a community and friendships and things like that, as opposed to being alone with a deity that may or may not respond, may or may not exist. I don't know. It just seems like that, in my opinion, that just seems like an extreme leap as opposed to what else might be available out there. Especially here in Tennessee, because I'm also in Tennessee as well. And I can tell you, we have humanist groups, we have non-religious Sunday meetup groups. There are Unitarian churches here that accept everyone from every religion. Yeah.
There's actually a mistake. It was supposed to be Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
And the joke is that I wanted to have on the thing say Philly baby, but apparently that got translated to Tennessee.
Got it. Okay. That's funny.
But I'm in Philly.
Sack the crew immediately.
You're all fired. I'm glad to hear you don't live in Tennessee, by the way. I'm happy for you.
Tennessee's a beautiful part of the country. The Appalachians are great. I'm generally just optimistic about things, so.
Yeah, I think.
Why do I?
Chloe, we're going to let you go in a second. Just before we do, quickly, I mean, I've been largely quiet because Sydney's been having a great conversation with you, and honestly, there was no need for me to interject. I think I'm really big on psychology and neurology and all that stuff's my bag, and I think just kind of learning more about emotions and how they work might help you. And that's something you don't need a therapist for, something you don't need to go onto the internet to talk to people for, or these things which are kind of pushing back against you. There's a couple of really, really, really helpful books from very different aspects that might benefit you. And I'm going to kind of throw them your way. One is Emotional Ignorance by Dr. Dean Burnett, and it's really good. It started out right in the book, in the vein of kind of telling everybody about what emotions were, and as he was doing so, he realized he didn't actually know. And during the writing of the book, he actually lost his father. So he was writing a book about emotions to educate people as a neurologist, and at the same time dealing with emotions. So it gave a really, really good human perspective to it. And another really helpful book is by the non-profit's very own Dr. Richard Firth Godby here, called A Human History of Emotion. And that is a really good humorous take on how emotions, the idea of emotions developed. and how it's how they came to be. It's got all the science stuff in there, but it's got lots of really great stories in there as well. And I think sometimes this kind of self-help, going and kind of giving yourself more knowledge, is really good therapy in itself. And I think you might find, after kind of learning a little bit more about how emotions work, that you don't necessarily need to ascribe them to this supernatural entity in order for them to work for you. And, I'd hugely think that avenue, regardless of what book it is, just go and do a little bit of research into emotions themselves. And I think this will be really helpful for you. In the meantime, Chloe, thank you very much for your call. I'm going to let you go. We hugely welcome you talking to us. I know you've called before, and we're happy to have you call again. I know you were in the pre-show TikTok as well, and anyone else who is a TikTok user is more than welcome to give us a call on the show.